Hello, friends. I'm Leigh Brown. And guess where you are? That's right, crazy shit in real estate. Today, I've got Brenda Kasuva with us, and she has lived about 14 million real estate lives. You're really going to enjoy this conversation, and especially if you happen to be a buyer or seller of real estate, a couple of good insights for you to be the best possible person you can be in this market. So enjoy the conversation. All of Brenda's information, of course, is in the show notes, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I hope you are.
I am well. Yes, I am.
I like how you say that like you're totally convincing yourself. You're like, yes, I am.
I am. I'm sure you hear this all the time. For till now, I was like, no, it can't be. She didn't say yes.
I mean, life. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited to learn more about you, where you're located, when you got started in real estate and in training and all the pieces and parts of what makes Brenda amazing. So what can you share with me about you?
Well, I got my license in 2004. I'm originally from Kenya. So as an immigrant, the interest for real estate came about from me working for a help desk company. The company still exists, Realty Tools. They do toolkit CMA that back then almost a lot of people were using it. Right now, probably not as much. So they would call and ask me questions, and then they talk about how much they make. And I'm like, really? And you're calling me to ask me questions? So then I decided to take the real estate course. Real estate is very different, obviously, here than it is back home. Back home, anyone can sell the house. Anyone can help you buy. There's no MLS. Everyone, yeah. So whomever you find, buyer pays their own attorney, kind of like commercial here. Buyer pays their own attorney and seller pays their own agent to go through it. So all foreign. Luckily, I was able to pass the exam, and then from there is just talking to as many people as I can and learning about the industry. Fast forward 2 years into it, I get the opportunity to do technology because that's what I graduated from school on, and there was an opening for a technology trainer, but I think I missed the word trainer because I thought it was going to be the same thing as what I did on Realty Tools. And so 2 weeks into the job, they're telling me, here's a set of 12 laptops. You're going to set up a class and you're going to teach 12 people. And I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, yeah, you are. And so I started teaching, and that's how training came about. And I was doing it for the 5 states in our area: Maryland, Delaware, DC, Virginia. And then that lasted for about 5 years, which then leads to so from 2007, when the downside came about, I was an employee. So I'm not selling any real estate. I'm just doing that. 2011, end of 2011, the position is eliminated, and I'm stuck in that bubble of what do I do? This is all I know. And my former manager calls and says, let's do real estate. And I'm like, okay, I'm jump starting all over again. So I jump started all over again, but still education was calling me. So another instructor, I'll shamelessly plug her name here, Marion Chippa, that I was working with, says, well, you've taught technology. Can you teach licensing? And I'm like, no, I can't. Technology cannot break. Licensing, I have to have it make sense to the other person. So I take on the challenge, and I'm like, okay, well, I have nothing to lose right now. Let me see how this works. And so I started building that with the licensing class, exam prep, continuing education followed from that, designations has followed from that. And now full circle to COVID is where I'm going back to technology, to where I'm doing more of the technology training for real estate agents and still mentoring agents in the process. So yeah, that's a nutshell where I got.
Okay, so now I have a ton of follow-up questions because there's so many angles to attack here. So let me ask you a question. So as an immigrant, that's one of the biggest changes you can go through in life is changing the country where you live and the people with whom you spend time and in laws and customs and society. So you went through one of the massive life changes. Do you think that made it a little easier for you than for people who don't adapt to change at all to change with technology and with changing market conditions, and then to say yes when your broker calls in 2011 and says, hey, come on, and when suddenly you're training on different items? Do you feel that that's been a foundation for you to adapt in a way that others could learn from?
Well, I've never looked at it that way. I guess I've always been presented with change. So if I go back to even how I got here, is where maybe now I'm going to connect the dots. I get my visa to travel here, and my background is whatever your parents say, you do. So my mom planned all of this out. I didn't know where I was going, whom I was going to stay with. She planned it out. And then I'm told, you need to go take this steps. You need to go get your visa. I get my visa. And then the day after I get my visa, 98, is when we have the bomb blast to the US Embassy in Kenya. So again, change for me is like, okay, you already have everything, you still have to go because everything has already been mapped out. So I was traveling that day after. So I got my visa today, bomb blast today, traveling tomorrow, never been on a plane. I'm coming here by myself. I don't have any family, no one. So right now I can talk casually about it because it's been so many years. I don't have, the only relatives I had were a cousin in, no, Texas. Yeah, one cousin in Texas. That's it. So I'm coming to Maryland, and let me even step even further. The person that I was supposed to stay with, she comes to Kenya for a wedding. And the plan was, okay, we're going to go back with Miss Mary. We're going to, she's going to show me around. She was working at University of Maryland. That's how Maryland came about, because she was my mom's best friend. She comes to visit in August, and 4 days later, she's traveling to go to attend the wedding. She passes away.
Oh,
I know, my story is just, I know. So here I am. I was to come with someone to guide me through the culture and everything. I don't have that. I'm traveling the day after this event, so everything is new. I land here and I just land. Thankfully, our culture is we're welcoming, such that I was able to have somebody from Kenya take care of me for like 2 weeks. And then I'm in the dorm and exposed to international students. And so probably that all stemmed me to say, okay, now what? Let's just see what it is and move from there. So that's how I have, I guess, from that experiences, then that's how I've been able to just say, okay, change is coming. Let's work through it. Let's work through it.
frankly, that's great life advice for people to say, instead of sitting there and saying, oh my gosh, you just say, now what? Because that is definitely a choice that we make, is how we deal with, oh my gosh, death and bomb blast, and I'm leaving, and my mom said, and visa, and well, now what? And you keep going. Now I have to ask you a question back to your 2004. So you're working as technical support for realtors.
Yes.
Who are, they've got other strengths besides technology. That's how we'll put it. So then you decide to get into real estate. Did that give you some perspective on questions to ask when you were landing with a broker after you got your license, or did you get the license and then blindly land with a broker like many realtors do?
The latter. So it was, okay, this is where you're taking the class. I'm taking the class in 2004. So if we step back 2004, everyone wants to get into real estate. So it's like
2022.
just like now, you're correct. The cycle repeats itself. So I'm there taking the class. We're one of 35. and I pass, and I just blindly, again, no interviews. And that's what I share today when I'm normally doing like career talk, is do your homework. You have the ability to do your homework. I didn't, no complaints. I learned a lot. I even stayed with that brokerage for 16 years and just switched over in 2020. So no, I did not do any of my homework. I just went, and I had a great mentor who walked me through everything. And that's what I aspire to do for my current mentees as well.
Love that. So I also love the vulnerability of saying, I didn't do this the best way possible. And I'm pretty sure you'd agree with me, Brenda, in the business, there is a gap between pre-licensing when somebody decides to become a realtor and then figuring out how to conduct the business. And then in the meantime, they have to select a broker with whom to hang the license. And that's going to have crazy lasting impact on their career as to what kind of attitude they go to real estate with, what kind of attention they pay to the code of ethics, how do they approach professionalism, and are they going to look at education as something that improves them or as something that's just a requirement. That broker relationship sets a lot of the future course for a lot of people. So as you're teaching now, and as you have access to these bright-eyed people who are just so excited about real estate and they don't have any idea what they're getting into, what questions are you telling them to ask, and how do you guide them in approaching finding the right broker relationship?
Well, before the questions, I always remind them why. So why is it you got into real estate? And as they're introducing themselves, I casually will hear the same. The same is, oh, I'm getting it because people have always told me that I am good at it. And I usually ask deeper. So what happens when you don't enjoy what you think others tell you you're good at it? What will you do? There has to be something else that is leading you into real estate. And if it's money, brilliant. If it's, you want to improve the community, brilliant. If now you want to be a better realtor because the one that you were exposed to, in your opinion, was not great, brilliant. So I always start off with why. Why is it that you really want to get this real estate career? Because the course itself, trust me, is the easy part. Because you have a layout, you have the textbooks, you have all the information that you just need to apply it. Once you get to real estate, you're dealing with people, and people bring a whole different story because of their upbringing, their stereotypes, their biases, and so on. That's a whole different story. So right now, as you're going through it, you might feel overwhelmed, and you will. So you need to go back to why is it you got into real estate? And then when you're interviewing other brokers, when you're deciding whom you want to place your license with, then you start off with, the reason why I got my license is I want to do this part-time while I, shift into becoming a full-time agent. So what is it that you're able to support me on that? I am looking to hopefully make this amount of money. How can you help me with that? So education is a natural type of a question that somebody who's new is going to ask. The one that I always add, and I say this one I'm biased, is what does a broker volunteer? What part of volunteer work does a broker do? And I'm not biased where it has to be in real estate. What do they do in the community and get involved in the community as well? Because volunteer is one of the biggest ways that you learn. It's not from a textbook, you learn from others. And the person whom you volunteer with could be on the other side, the buyer agent or the seller agent. So I always ask for the volunteer part.
Now, I had to write down what you said a second ago, because a lot of us talk about the why. Why do we do things? What's your why? Lead with your why, start with why. But you asked a really fascinating, pointed question. And you might not even hear yourself saying it when you said, what will you do when you don't like it? And that is such an interesting perspective to think about, because we do have easy days in real estate, and then there's hard days. And there's days when in dealing with the general public, you don't like anybody at all. And if you got into real estate because you love people and you love houses, that wears off so quickly. So what is your organic response to being trapped or stuck in something you don't like? And I think that's a question all of us should be answering about our own professional lives, especially when you hit your medium years or the medium years of your professional life, if not in your actual physical life. That's a fascinating way to think about it. All right. So now, of course, in our show here, we talk about the crazy angles of real estate. And obviously you've experienced about, I don't know, 25 times more than most people, as you just already lit into here, from being in the support side, which many realtors have zero concept of the fact that there is support available within our technology and within our association life and within their brokerage. So you're showing that support from education to technology to being a mentor now because it was done for you, and also coming from a background of caring and community and compassion and looking after other people. So the perspectives are all over the place. So I know it's probably hard for you to narrow it down, but Brenda, I've got to know, if somebody says, look, you've been around this game for almost 20 years now, what's the craziest thing you've seen in and around real estate?
Oh my goodness. So there's one that I was like, should I share? So the one right now, because most of the times you recall the most recent. So right now there's one that I'm still tackling that I was like, oh my goodness, after all these years, this is a first for me, where I am representing the seller and the seller did not show up for settlement. And so, no. And so we're working out what it is that happened. So we're still in that baby phase of we don't know what's going to happen from the buyer perspective in terms of the seller didn't meet what it is that they promised to do. And the backstory of this that probably I can share is we don't realize that sometimes our past judgments could attach to when you're trying to sell the house.
This episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss, one of the leading CRMs, client relationship managers for residential real estate. Tons of top producing agents and some of the fastest growing teams out there are using Follow Up Boss to increase lead conversion, eliminate busy work that you're not doing anyway, and frankly, deliver a higher class experience in real estate to everybody who chooses you as their realtor of choice. Follow Up Boss is going to take the names and phone numbers and also help you know what to do next so you can maintain these relationships with your neighbors, because that's what this is about. Real estate is not about serving just prospects and clients. It's about taking great care of your neighbors' needs in real estate. Truly, it's going to change your business when you start paying better attention to people. They don't have to know you use Follow Up Boss, but they'll totally understand that they are being heard by you. And frankly, because you're my people and we made an ask for you, Follow Up Boss said, yes, you get double the free trial. That's actually enough time to log in, put some pieces in it, and watch it change your business as it has for so many realtors and teams nationwide. Again, go to followupboss.com/crazy to start your free trial today.
So sellers, when you're selling the house, when we're asking you, is there anything that is attached to the house? Don't just limit it to mechanics lien, that the contractor did the work. Anything else is going to come up. And so that's where we are right now on that one. The other one, though, that I have to share is a buyer bought the house. I don't even know how many times. I've lost track. Is where the property was on the market. We put in an offer, and it is in this market where, again, we got the property, offer was accepted, and it wasn't at the asking price. We were able to negotiate it even lower in this market, 2021 into 2022. I know.
A crazy story in and of itself, because that just doesn't happen right now, except rare occasions. So
yes, and the listing agent said, Brenda, it was clean. So buyer agent learned to fill out all the appropriate documents, make sure it's a clean, everything is there. They don't have to do much work. Okay, so it's accepted as is. We go do home inspection. No offense to the statement, but some will understand it's a first-time home buyer. So there's a lot of things come in as information to an individual who's buying the house for the first time. So home inspection comes, nervousness. I don't want the house anymore. Our as-is clause does allow the person to terminate. She terminates. She gets the deposit check. The deposit check, thanks or no thanks to the title company, is dated for the date that we were supposed to settle. So she can't deposit it. Okay, that's where it even gets interesting. So she can't deposit it. They made a mistake. It's a Friday. And we connect with the title company. They're like, okay, we're going to send one on Monday. Monday morning, she's like, no, Brenda, I've changed my mind. I want to buy the house. Okay, we've already terminated everything, Leigh. She has a copy of the check. And so here I am presenting a new offer because, again, as we know, contract law, we have to now present a new offer. It might be the same stuff that we offered before, but now we have a new one. I know. It's accepted. Okay. Wow. But now seller is like, okay, you know, these stuff that you brought to my attention from your home inspection, I have gone ahead, even though it was as is, I've gone ahead and tackled the stuff. But I'm not, I know, this is where it's going to be fascinating at the end. Where you're like, I don't get it. So the buyer and seller agree, okay, I've already tackled these. She's lucky that she got it with the inspection stuff done. No. So now, okay, so now we agree, this is it. She puts it that she wants the home inspector to come back and check the work that the seller said. I know that the seller once said that they fixed it. Okay, fine. Seller says yes. She's lucky. She's lucky. Okay, home inspector points out two things. One of them, okay, we presented back to the seller says like, oh no, I'm not going to do da 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 da. Okay,
Right.
while they're negotiating, appraisal is done. Appraisal comes up with some repairs and it says it's a FHA loan. Okay, pause. When we presented the offer, the lender presented a conventional letter. So we presented it as a conventional type of financing. Lender switched, not lender, well, because of her
Well,
debt.
this was new information to everybody except the lender and the buyer. Great, thanks.
So because of whatever communication, lender didn't tell me. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is a change. So dear lender, if you're listening to this, let's work with each other.
Well, to us, call us, email us, text us. We can handle all the communication. Tell us something. Holy smokes. Because you're the one that looks like an idiot to the listing agent, even though you don't know anything.
I know. Fast forward, seller says, I'm going to make these repairs. We're good. Buyer's like, no. There was still this issue that we haven't resolved yet. Do you know what she says? I'm going to pause. Seller has met the buyer halfway. I'm representing the buyer. So buyer, in case you're ever listening to this story, I do understand where you are coming from. I don't want to present it that I'm looking at it on the seller perspective, but we're the middle person filtering this stuff. So then we fast forward. This is now a whole week goes by with sellers gonna fix everything, but buyers still on that one thing, which was in our area roof. We have the shingles. The seller was to nail it down. Buyer wants a roofer to go ahead and confirm it has been done. And seller is like, there's no leak, but I'm nailing down the stuff. So this is where we ended up. And a whole week goes by. Buyer still hasn't signed the addendum. And then 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, she calls me and she's like, okay, I want to do this, but I want to make sure that she brings up something else to do with the electrical panel and homeowners insurance. And I'm like, what are we doing different? So now she's trying to buy the house a third time because the property is now on the market and seller by every right has increased it by what? 25,000.
Of course, because the repairs are done and the market has continued to increase.
Yes. Yes. Where we ended up, the buyer is now trying to tell the seller, I'm now ready to meet your demands. Please sell me the house again, $25,000 less. Seller is like, no way. I am done. We're done. And fast forward, we're still in the process of finding another house.
So the lesson here for all of our buyers and sellers that are listening is, as your realtor, we're trying desperately to help you pull emotion out of this process, because what happened with this buyer is emotional fixation. They got fixated on a repair here and a repair there, forgetting the big picture, because our little fixations can keep us out of the game altogether. And that's been happening to people for decades. They think about buying a house and then something scares them, or somebody gives them a negative opinion, or they're worried about a job or something else. And it's not that your worries are unfounded, but you have to ask good questions, because most people that I know wish they had bought more real estate 10 years ago than they have right now, wish they had been in the market prior to the run up we're experiencing. And run ups don't last forever. But this buyer is experiencing in real time what it feels like to get left behind because you got a something in your way. And as your realtor, we don't want you to buy a house if it's fallen down. But golly, if it's something that you can manage, we want you to be in the game, because being on the sidelines, you're never going to be the one bringing the winning goal across the line.
Correct. Yeah, I tell people I'm your filter. I'm like your coffee filter. I'm filtering a lot of information, and I will always listen to what you're saying and then let's consider this other side, because that's a part of whole negotiation, is to consider the other side and then present your side of story. Yes. Yes.
And it's actually when you found a great realtor who's saying, this is one perspective, this is the other perspective. The person to be wary of is the one that says, everything's always good, or the person who says, everything's always bad. Nothing in life is black and white. Everything is gray area. And so a great realtor is going to say, well, here's two perspectives so you can make a good choice. But gosh, I feel bad for this buyer, because they're going to pay financially for the not having somebody to help, not just the realtor, but somebody in your life to say, hey, you're cool here, because we don't always have the advantage of being the most believable person in the scenario. But her best friend, her dad, her cousin, somebody should say, come on, babe, we can do this, and support each other moving forward. That's painful. It's so painful.
It is. So hopefully by the time we're listening or watching this, 2-3 months from now, we definitely have found something. Yes.
And can we just give a high five to that seller for being willing to re-entertain any offer after the first time? I mean, they have an enormous amount of grace and patience. I probably don't have that many myself, I'll be honest.
Yeah, 3 times. So yeah. Thank you. So definitely. Oh yeah, there's the other one. If you have time, is this one I found interesting. I had the seller. And seller is the type that was still living in the property. And so when people are checking out the house, they're nosy. They want to see who's coming in. And one of the buyers, it's in the summertime, the AC is on, cooling the house. The buyer and the buyer agent leave the door open. I'm not there. So when we're presenting the offers, we have multiple offers. And this was back, I can't even remember right now, but we were experiencing multiple offers. And the seller asked, by any chance, is this the buyer that came and saw the house at this time? And I'm like, I really wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know. And he goes on, or they go on to say, if that's the buyer, then I'm not going to pick them. And I'm like, why? He's like, well, because when they were looking at the house, they left the door open for about 20 minutes, and it's in July, and we have the air conditioning going on. And I'm like, really? Really?
That's very
really? Very, very, very. And then here I am, and this is where I was like, okay, he's going to be doing VA financing. Thank you for his service. Nope. Seller did not pick that particular person because in their opinion, they were wasting, I don't know, electricity for 20 minutes.
I mean, my dad used to say, we're not air conditioning the whole outdoors. And I think most parents say that at some point, but it's not really a reason to keep somebody from buying your house. But then again, leaving the door open is not a protected class. I would say that as a seller, it's generally a terrible idea to watch your showings anyway, whether you're watching it on camera or from across the street, because holding a grudge is not healthy behavior. And it can also, watching your showings can also kick up implicit biases and subconscious biases against the buyer. So how about you just go eat lunch while showings are going on, or go to your mom's house and visit, and then let us, the realtor, help you objectively look at offers so that you don't kick somebody out because they left the door open. And what if they were just nervous or claustrophobic about doors being closed? I mean, I've gotten locked out of houses before. I imagine you have too, Brenda, because I think that's a rite of passage for realtors. But the offer that they took, I'm sure, was fine to them. How did you explain that to this buyer agent? Hey, you lost because y'all left the door open. Or did you just let it go?
I just let it go. I just let it go. The seller picked the best offer for them at this moment. But since then, you're right in terms of your statement. I learned to now tell the sellers, it's not wise. And I know still they will be curious and just want to sit. But it comes out from me that, when people are coming to check out your house, go do something. Go be productive. Go do something else, because again, of biases as well. Yeah, that could come into a picture.
Be nosy at closing when you meet them,
Yes.
hand them the keys, and then you can be nosy and say, "Oh, how old are your kids? And where'd you go to high school?" That's when we ask those questions.
Yes. After. Yes.
So, Brenda, if somebody wants to connect with you and find out more about your real estate services, your training services, your mentoring, all the millions of things that you do in the world, how is the best way for them to connect with you? Besides, I see our hashtag is here on the screen, Training with Brenda.
Yes. So my last name sometimes presents a challenge to some to spell it. Brenda Kasuva will be the place you can find me. However, Kasuva, again, I've seen it spelled so many different ways. So Training with Brenda will be the next option. And on social media, you will be able to find me there, on websites as well. Yes, Brenda Kasuva or Training with Brenda.
And of course, you guys know that before you click away to go to the show notes where all of Brenda's links and handles are, so you can connect with her and find out more about Maryland real estate or everything else that she will be glad to share with you, leave her a nice comment here, because she wants to know that you enjoyed this episode, and so do I. And then give some likes and thumbs ups, tell a friend, subscribe 5 stars. And Brenda, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope that you'll see some happy remarks here in the comments. People, leave her some happy love. And I can't wait to see you in person at some point.
You will. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed chatting with Brenda just as much as I did. Make sure you've hit subscribe and the bell, and tune back in where I'll see you next time. So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available on all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.